And welcome back to part 8. 8? 8? Numbers. Part 8 of the What If Naruto had a Zanpakuto series, the Minazuki edition. Last time, we went through the time skip. Now, I should note that when I said Naruto did learn something extra over the time skip, and I said, it's pretty clear what it is if you know what this series is going for. Someone asked, I hope it's Keto and Hado and all that. It's like, no, it's not keto. I'm still not going to say what it is. I'll reveal it when it's revealed. But again, it's pretty obvious, I think, if you know what the video series is about. Anywho, though, we cut over now to the gaara retrieval arc. I mean, everyone's kind of just done their thing. They've had their whole stint with Kakashi Sensei, the test, if you will. They pass with flying colors. Gaara gets kidnapped, and so they're on their way to go get Gaara. And most of that stays within reason. Like the whole Gaara Dedora fight, that's the exact same that happens in the series. They catch up with Temari. They have the conversation about Naruto being the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, and she's, very thankful to Naruto. And then they get to the sand where Kankuro obviously has been poisoned by Sasori. And I think here there's one slight difference that really doesn't matter that much. It's actually Sasuke who blocks Chiyo's attack on Kakashi. Which Chiyo, Jesus, what were you thinking? It's like, I will avenge them. It's like, well, great. Now you're going to start another war over something that happened in the previous war. Good on you. Petty squabbles aside, yes, you lost people. Guess what? Everyone loses people. Deal with it. Anywho, so Sakura goes, and I think Sakura's skill at medical ninjutsu is still at a solid pace. She maybe hasn't spent as much time as it in the original, but she has not spent as much time mastering it as she did in the original. But I think her skills are up to par enough to be able to pull out most like the poison. Kankuro might be a little bit more crippled for longer. He might have to go through another session of healing, but he's still saved. Which leads us actually to the interaction we have with the Itachi clone and Naruto and Sasuke, because we know Team Guy interacts with the Kisame clone, and that wouldn't change at all. Here, though, we have the Naruto, Sasuke, and everyone else there with Itachi. So, Itachi shows up. It's Naruto. It's good to see you again. And you, little brother. Sasuke is immediately just like, Itachi. Now, Sasuke isn't like just, I see him, I attack him. I seize and I attacks. Because he has matured a certain amount over the time. He's been able to mellow out to a certain degree. All that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean he still doesn't harbor the hatred he has. Excuse me. Still, I mean, it's not early, but I haven't been up for that long. He still wants Itachi dead, but he fully remembers the last time he tried that. Didn't go well. So he knows Itachi's still no joke, and he's got to be cautious. It's like, as much as I would love to stay and have conversation with you, Sasuke, I'm really here for Naruto. I'm going to have to ask you come with me. It's like, yeah, just don't look at his eyes. He can cast some of his eyes. Oh, I don't cast it with much more than my eyes. I could cast the genjutsu with just this finger alone. And then that's when Kakashi kind of chimes in about the but don't worry, I have no intention of using my Mangekyo's Sharingan. No, to be precisely, I can't right now. And then Kakashi comes in. And basically just says lies like, Itachi, how much of your eyesight have you lost? To which Kakashi, you. And to which Sasuke, to be fair, he looks at Sasuke and thinks, okay, maybe Sasuke is the one who told him that. Not realizing that, oh no, Kakashi knows that because he probably has a Mangekyo. Or that he does have a Mangekyo. We never actually knew if Kakashi was suffering from the eyesight loss as well. It's implied that he might have been, but because he wasn't a pure-blooded Uchiha, maybe he had a bit more of a reprieve from the blindness. And he didn't use it that often either because he wasn't a pure Uchiha, because he can only use it for so much or so often so many times before it just either killed him or just completely drained him. So Itachi again is squaring off, and they fight. Mostly it's Itachi actually having to fend off Sasuke of all people, and Naruto again is caught in the Genjutsu. But here I think Naruto is actually able to break out and legitimately just break out of the Genjutsu, just boop. Well, I mean, he still struggles a bit with it, but ultimately just kind of asks either Minazuki, who does have its own separate chakra pool, as we know, Zanpakuto have their own separate Ryatsu, so even though it's connected to, it's still technically their own Ryatsu. So they are able to kind of interrupt something happening to the user's Ryatsu in Bleach if need be, but only if it's only if the Ryatsu is of comparable strength, or you basically know what I'm trying to say here, because Minazuki is its own separate entity as well, even though it's connected to the user. It could also disrupt the chakra. So ultimately, Naruto just gets out of the Genjutsu. And between Sasuke and Kakashi, I think it's actually Sasuke who does the killing blow against his Itachi, not Naruto with the Great Ball Rasengan. Basically just using Chidori and then Chidori Senbon, which are basically just jazzing it right out of Itachi. Kind of what he did when the fake Itachi showed up to kind of talk to Sasuke. So, yeah, and ultimately, he goes down, but it's not the real Itachi, as we learned. It's Yori? Was that the name of the character, Yori? And so they ultimately, they head off, and they go and they find the Akatsuki hideout. And Team Guy basically sets off the trap, which basically lets them get in. Gaara pretty much falls to the ground, and Deidara goes off and flies after Naruto, or flies away with Gaara, which I do believe Naruto's like, Gaara! Because Naruto, for all his maturing, even with a little bit of extra aid from, like, say, a Zanpakuto, is still... excuse me, I got yawning. Whew. Is still Naruto. Like, there's very rare scenarios where his personality does a complete 180 in this scenario. It's not like he's the reincarnate. I get a lot of what if they were the reincarnation of character video suggestions. But and when it comes to the Bleach characters, like what if he was the reincarnation of Retsu Unohana? Well, that is different than just having that person's Zanpakuto. Because the Zanpakuto itself is a separate entity, and Naruto has access to the power. It is someone who can influence Naruto to a certain degree, but that's different than being a true reincarnation of someone where your personality is probably going to align almost to a T with that person. So, yeah. Again, I'm just yawning for some reason. Daylight savings has really kicked my ass a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sleeping pretty well, but at the same time, I'm digressing. So Naruto goes off, Kakashi chases after him, which leaves Sasuke, Sakura, and Chiyo to face Sasori. Now, Sasuke having lightning chakra does make this a bit more of a, not cakewalk, but it actually does make it it gives them an advantage, especially against the magnet release or the iron release, because this allows them to disrupt basically the magnetic particles because light and electricity are connected. I've always liked the idea that when he brings out the third Kazekage puppet, Sasuke is able to kind of counter it with some lightning jutsu and at least disrupt the iron sand temporarily, which allows them Sakura to come in, bash the puppet down. Chiyo is again puppeteering both of them, and is doing the best she can. Unfortunately, she also has to once the 100 puppets come out, do her own 10 special puppets. So and Sasuke basically says, "Let me go." Well, what do you mean? It's like I know the chakra threads are good in this scenario, but my Sharingan can help compensate for it. You protect Sakura more than me. I'll be okay. And Sakura's like, Sasuke's like, I got it, Sakura. Don't worry. And so yeah, they go, and Sasuke using his Sharingan is able to pretty much avoid any of the poison blades. They all have their own. They all have the antidote that Sakura was able to cook up. I think she was still able to cook up the antidote. And Sasuke was probably given the final one as well. So they're going through. Sasuke's using combination of probably sword techniques, lightning style, and Sharingan as well. Um, so, obviously Sasuke's, plowing through. Ultimately, it comes down to them trying to steal Sasori, that failing, both of them reacting. Sasuke maybe even gets one extra blade in there. But it was really the parents of Sasori's parents that do him in. Meanwhile, the Naruto Kakashi Deidara chase is going pretty similarly. Similar. It's going similar to how it goes in the original. Naruto is a little blind by rage, but he is able to calm it down. He's able to calm it down a bit more. But he's still angry. Obviously, he's still got Nine Tails chakra kind of flowing into him. Naruto, though, is able to, Kakashi are both able to, finally catch Gaara. Ultimately, though, Gaara is unfortunately, technically dead at this point or near death. Naruto, actually, what I can actually see happening is Naruto grabs the chopped off bit with Gaara in it with Minazuki, and now Gaara's resting in Minazuki. Unfortunately, Gaara is a little past the point of standard healing right now. So, even though he might be able to keep him stable for a little bit, but Naruto can sense in Minazuki that Gaara still is fading. Like, he's not really recovering. And Naruto is starting to lose it. But Kakashi ultimately does put the seal on just to be safe. It's all okay. Oh, God, I can't stop yawning. It's already like a quarter after 12, and I'm still yawning. Jeez. Of course, I didn't get to bed till like 1, so that might be part of it. So, anyway, most of it goes pretty much the same. Naruto having Minazuki doesn't really affect this type of fight. So, and obviously Sasori gives out the bait that Orochimaru is meeting at this bridge with an associate of his. They don't, I think really though, the only one they might send for this is Sakura, and that's really only, and maybe not even that, because Sakura really all they have to do is tell the people going what Sasori sounded like. So, really, I don't know if Sakura would actually be going here, and I know Team 7 wouldn't be going, and Kakashi's indisposed, and I'm willing to bet that, technically speaking, Sasuke is a Jonin at this point, I would believe, because I believe he could form a little rivalry with Neji, the Hyuga Uchiha rivalry, as it were. And so technically he'd be the one qualified to lead Team 7 at this point. But I still see that as a way for them to kind of put Sai on the team temporarily, because Sai it's a 3-man team technically at the moment. They need a 4th member. Sasuke's leading it, and he's the leader, but he's not. I mean, you could probably do it as Team 7 as is, but I could see this as a way for Danzo and the 2 others to get Sai on the team and have Danzo have some influence. So, as Kakashi is recovering, excuse me, as Kakashi is recovering, that's when they get the word that Sai is going to be on their team, and Sai introduces him. And I think Naruto right now is just doing what he's doing, not even trying to recruit anyone like he was originally, just trying to just hanging out, having some time off. And that's where he meets, Team 8. He sees Hinata. Hinata's like, Naruto! And she freaks out. Nothing about Hinata has really changed here, where she doesn't kind of freak out a little bit. Shino's depressed, like, you recognized Hinata and Kiba. It's like, well, how am I supposed to recognize you? It's like, friends should recognize friends. Shino, stop it. Sees Choji, Shikamaru, all that, and then Sai obviously chimes in with his ink beast. Choji blasts it apart. Naruto pulls out his sword and pulls out a couple shadow clones and just cuts a few of them apart. Naruto clashes with Sai with the sword. He's like, you're pretty weak. Are you a girl? To which Naruto immediately just puts pressure with the blade, and Sai quickly realizes that, okay, maybe blocking with a kunai wasn't the smartest thing. I do have a blade of my own. But he ultimately gets out of there. And as Kakashi is recovering, he's called in for a meeting with Team 7 with Tsunade, and they say, you have a new member. It's like, that's the guy who attacked me earlier. You what? And it's like, oh yes, I just wanted to test you how strong you were. Not very impressed. And Sasuke's just like, yeah. It's like, that's enough. If you're gonna be on this team, you're gonna have to show respect, just like anyone else. It's like, of course, I wouldn't dream of it, duck butt. And Sasuke, and Naruto's like, well, what is this guy's problem? Even though Naruto's probably called him that once or twice before. Sakura's like, what is this guy's problem? I heard nicknames are a good way to form bonds. So basically, what happens here is they don't actually go on the mission to the bridge with Naruto to go meet Orochimaru. That's a poor group of Ambu's death sentence right there. Sound 4 shows up, kills them all on behalf of Orochimaru. So really, it's just actually a lot of missions that really aren't doing much for the team building at all. Although I think there's definitely bonding that kind of ultimately happens. Unlike before where Sai is there to go and kill Sasuke, allegedly. Here, Sai is actually just seeing the bond that these guys have. And so ultimately, it just ends with Kakashi coming back and ultimately starting to teach Naruto Winjutsu, because, Winjutsu Naruto mentions that he hadn't been taught elemental jutsu yet. And so he starts his wind training. And that's going about the same. The whole really, most of the Kakakuzu Hidan stuff goes pretty much down to a T, except when Hidan and Kakazu, are fighting the combination of Team 7 and Team 10, right? It's the fact that Sasuke is also there. That's the only thing there. And in fact, I can see a collaboration jutsu with Naruto and Sasuke using both wind and fire, which helps counteract the false lightning technique. Or it wasn't the false lightning. It was also he was using fire and wind as well. So they basically just counter each other. Granted, it causes a bit more of a burning, mass, but it's backfire basically. So really, Naruto basically shows off the new Rasen Shuriken technique, woohoo, and mostly a lot of this stuff just happens the same. Now, what is changed up is the fact that Itachi again has to basically egg Sasuke on to come out and challenge him face to face, to which Sasuke probably is. Here, Sasuke's not even in a relationship with anyone at this point. I haven't established that. But Sasuke, ultimately, I still always like the idea of the crow turning into a kunai and giving the message, and Sasuke goes out. Except this time, Sasuke and Naruto, I think Sasuke actually asked Naruto to come with him. I think that's a difference here, is that he knows that he needs to take on Itachi, but he's not sure. He just needs the backup, basically. And so Naruto and Sasuke go out. Naruto leaves a clone to tell him what happened and tells him that we went out on our own. And so Kisame meets up with Naruto. And with them both. I should say with Naruto, but with Sasuke and Naruto. And he basically says, yeah, only Sasuke's allowed it past this point. And so, and Sasuke allows it, though he knows he can get past with a clone if he needs to. So he allows it for right now. It's like, hey, so you gotten any better with that sword, kid? And it's like, I'm not here necessarily to fight. Oh, well, technically speaking, I don't have to let you just stay here. And we are still needing the Nine Tails. You really want to do this? It's so tempting. I can't resist. And then, Kisame just comes in at Naruto. And, Naruto clashes with the blade. And he shows off a bit of the Winjutsu he's learned. But ultimately, he's, But ultimately, it just gets absorbed by Kisame. Come on, you don't remember very well, do you, kid? My Sir Kisame doesn't cut; it shaves, and he loves the taste of chakra. And your chakra is tasty, kid. Absolutely. And Naruto's just looking on, just like, you real. I see. Naruto just says something. He's like, flesh drop gorge. Do you know what that is? He's like, It's Minazuki's namesake, Flesh Drop Gorge. Now but Minazuki has another name as well. Or Minazuki means something else as well. And to which, because I was like, what are you getting at, kid? Meanwhile, the fight with Itachi and Sasuke goes nearly the same, except not quite as in Sasuke's favor as it should be, because he is lacking the curse mark. But that's compensated by the fact he's learned a lot of jutsu over the years. So he's probably learned enough jutsu to actually be able to compensate for the fact that he doesn't have the curse mark. So I would say it ultimately ends about the same. But meanwhile, back to what Naruto says, Minazuki once said that its true power is something very frightening, something I wasn't ready for at the time. Over the years, I've grown and learned. And Miyazuki's power comes at a price. I have to really I've always liked a good fight, Kisame, but this entitles me to I hear this is a good way to put it, to love battle like a sickness. And all this is like, what are you getting at, kid? And it's like, and all of a sudden he just has Minazuki, and Miyazuki just is there, and just you see Naruto, and he goes, and as the image suggesting, Bankai Minazuki, and all of a sudden, like there's just all this red liquid is just forming around, and it's just red, and all of a sudden Kisame's, for some reason, despite all his years of battle and fighting and stuff like that, has a very real chill go down. So I was like, what is this? All things end. That's what Minazuki truly means. Now then, shall we? And then Naruto comes in, and the way I've described it, the way I've interpreted Minazuki is it seems to be acid of some kind, and I would be so inclined to think that Naruto can, or at least Unohana can probably use it even like a whip if she needs to. I could see that, and Naruto just comes in and just hits Samahata. Now, Samahata is technically not an inorganic being. Technically, because it's a sentient entity, it's technically an organic being because it can fuse with Kisame. Yeah, did we ever actually establish that? I think that Minazuki is actually we know it's a living creature of some kind, but it is kind of an organic being to some extent. But it's also a blade too, because I think what those are supposed to be is they're not made of metal. The scales, they are just like they're like hard as metal, but they are scales, so they're technically organic. So by all accounts, I think I'm going to treat Samahata like an organic creature. Yeah. And so Naruto just comes in and it clashes with Kisame, and immediately he sees Kisame can sense Samahata's reaction. What the hell is this? This isn't chakra. What is it? It's the blood of everyone. Don't you understand? This is the blood, the sin of this is the sin of battle, Kisame. This is what warriors pay. This is what we warriors pay. And you should embrace it, enjoy it. And he's clashing with Kisame again. Samahata is burnt. Now Samahata, I think scales do prevent it from burning, like just immediately, just almost Baragon style, which is how it was depicted in the fight. But it's one of those things where I think it's starting to design. Kisame just can't absorb really. There's some chakra in there, certainly, but it's all covered in acid and wrapped, or it's Samahata no longer likes this chakra. Samahata, better be careful. And then he's able to strike Kisame. Kisame's, what is that? And he's trying to regenerate with the chakra from Samahata, but Samahata's just trying to regenerate itself. What's going on? And he sees Naruto phasing through. He's also got his Nine Tails chakra activated. He's actually already in the second state, but he's surprisingly coherent coherent and calm. That's because, thanks to practice with Minazuki, he's able to kind of quell this rage and excitement. This is the true power that I don't. I'll be honest, I don't like using Minazuki's Bankai very much. Very much. It's a style of fighting I'm not really a fan of, but I understand this is who Minazuki is. So I need to, and Minazuki has lent me its power. So I need to respect that and understand that. Can you understand it? As he's just kind of like regenerating and losing body part because I think that's why Unohana was also, in theory, if that's what was going on, was also being affected by her own sword, is because it's the acid's indiscriminate. She gets hit by the acid, she's going to dissolve too. So ultimately, it's one of those things where Naruto has been hit, but he's able to regenerate thanks to the Fox's chakra working overtime. Also, his Fox cloak, when he gets to higher levels, can kind of just block the acid to some degree. And really, because I'm just you little water style, water shockwave. It's trying to just douse the acid, and Naruto's like, you really think you're just going to negate my Bankai like that? Or you're just going to negate my Bankai like that? And he just suddenly is behind Kisame. It doesn't work that way, Kisame. And then just, he just stabs him straight through, just starts dissolving from these, you little all he is down is to the skeleton, just boom. And unfortunately, Samahade also just finally just turns into nothing but a handle. And even the handle, I think, is technically organic. So literally, it's just maybe the little skull pendant. And Naruto just... and White Zetsu's been looking on with actual horror. She's like... Or Zetsu's been looking... Well, yeah, the Zetsu's going to be in two different places. So the Zetsus have been looking on... Well, technically speaking, they can be in two different places because they can split. But I think the Zetsu has been... Black Zetsu has been focused on watching the Sasuke fight. And so Naruto then, heads off and gets the Sasuke in time. Only for Obito to kind of intervene. Like, hello, Naruto. I don't believe we've officially met, but you can call me Obito. And I'm gonna need you to come with me. Now Obito probably wasn't watching. Well, no, he might have been watching the fight, and he's like, I cannot let that shit hit me. But fortunately, Team 9, or the group, the Sasuke retrieval group, shows up saying, oh, this is unfortunate. But no matter. There are other avenues I can approach. Other avenues. But for now, it's time to get to Sasuke. Yeah, about that. And it's like, wait, what do you mean, Zetsu? What? Sasuke is passed out at the moment. He should be easy to access. All of a sudden, a Naruto clone basically shows up with Sasuke. I got it. Obito's just like, when did you? And he just realized, yes, when you released the power of that sword of yours, wasn't it? So, and yeah, Naruto actually sent a clone out basically while distracting Kisame and even distracting Obito, because Obito was so fixated on the fight that he went and got Sasuke, and Uchiha's like, still, there are other avenues that can be approached. Until next time. And so, basically, what's going on now is that he still has Pain, he still has Nagato, Konan, and he even still has Deidara on the team. Deidara is actually still alive in this version. But he's like, the Akatsuki are suffering in numbers and strength. We'll have to make new exceptions then. Zetsu, I need you to contact someone for me. And so, that is where part 8 ends. Went a little long here. I'll admit, I was a little jumbled at points. Honestly, I don't know why I was yawning so much. Anyway, that's my thoughts, though. But that's my thoughts. That's usually what I say with a what if, who would win, or a who would win, a Later Core, or a Pokemon video. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. See you for the week of What If next week, which, by my guess, we'll probably finish this one out next week. We may go the full 3 episodes, but we'll probably finish it out next week. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.